Another one of the defenses that the GOP is currently using against the fairly disastrous CBO estimate of the effects of their new healthcare bill is that this is simply phase one, step one in a three-part plan, and you can't understand the actual effect of the bill until we get all three parts. And so here you're gonna see both Tom Price and Paul Ryan rolling out this new talking point.
What the report looked at was only 1/3 of our plan, and that's why you can't look at this in isolation. But that's not the whole plan. That's the problem. They also ignored completely the other legislative activities that we'll be putting into place that will make certain that we have an insurance market that actually works. If you look at our entire package that the CBO didn't look at, not because they're bad folks, that's the way the rules work. They didn't look at all the regulations that we believe ought to go away. They didn't look at purchase across state lines or medical malpractice reform or all those things that in their totality create a system that actually works better.
This is just part one of a three-part plan, and that's why I'm excited. Just this, they say, lowers premiums, stabilizes the market, gives people more choice and freedom. Part two is Tom Price at HHS brings more choice and competition, lets the states open up markets, which will lower prices even more. In part three are the other bills that we will be passing: interstate shopping across state lines, association healthcare plans to let people bulk buy insurance nationwide, medical liability reforms. What I'm encouraged is, once our reforms kick in, what the CBO is telling us is it's going to lower premiums. It will lower premiums 10%. It stabilizes the market.
You don't want to be in a spot where you're talking about how, hey, premiums are going down, a voiceover to an image showing a huge sum of people are about to lose access to health insurance. On Fox News, yeah. And by the way, they did lead in their first segment about the CBO. It was, new CBO report, deficit will be reduced by $366 billion. That was the most important takeaway from that report.
By the way, Obamacare reduced deficit by about the same number, and what did they do? Oh my God, it's terrible, it's disastrous. Nobody was bragging about how it reduces deficit back when Obama did it. Okay, now to this talking point. Where did that come from? Nice little rabbit they just pulled out of a hat. I don't remember when they did the big launch. You remember in the press conference talking about a three-part Monty and all the three different steps they were gonna do?
No.
I don't remember that. All of a sudden, oh yeah, this part might suck, but we have two other secret parts, and those parts are gonna be awesome.
It's like you gave someone a gift and you see the look on their face and they're like, but that's just the first gift, I have other ones coming. Yeah, now, not everyone is buying this, and I don't just mean people sitting at this table right here. An up and coming Republican also not accepting this talking point. Here is Tom Cotton on with Hugh Hewitt.
What can be done? I've talked to the speaker, I've talked to the leader, I've talked to Kathy McMorris Rogers is on today, Mick Mulvaney, Tom Price. They all say it's a three-step dance because of the Senate reconciliation rules. So you know those rules. Working within the rules, how can the Senate improve its bills, or how can the House send to the Senate a bill that fits within the guardrails of reconciliation and allows for 51 votes that improves the individual market?
Hugh, there is no three-phase process. There is no three-step plan. That is just political talk. It's just politicians engaging in spin. This is why. Step one is a bill that can pass with 51 votes in the Senate. That's what we're working on right now. Step two, as yet unwritten regulations by Tom Price, which is going to be subject to court challenge and therefore perhaps the whims of the most liberal judge in America. But step three, some mythical legislation in the future that is going to garner Democratic support and help us get over 60 votes in the Senate. If we had those Democratic votes, we wouldn't need three steps. We would just be doing that right now on this legislation altogether. That's why it's so important that we get this legislation right, because there is no step three, and step two is not completely under our control.
So that's one of the most amazing things I've heard. And there's a couple of reasons why. Number one, that is a very conservative Republican who is very much controlled by the big donors. He's one of the biggest favorites of the big donors. And he just put a hatchet in the back of this plan. He's like, oh, your healthcare plan backed by Paul Ryan, Donald Trump, whatever. Bam! Like, oh, sink the long gone. Now, like, they got no chance of passing it in the Senate after Tom Cotton said that. The second reason why it's super surprising is because it was one of the most honest things I've ever heard from a Republican.
Yeah.
Where he's like, wait, if we had a mythical legislation that could pass the Senate and have the Democrats support it, why didn't we release it in the beginning? because of course we don't have one. That's very true. So what in the world is going on here? Why have the donors, because that's all Tom Cotton does. He's one of the top guys that represents the donors in the Senate. Why have the donors sent out Tom Cotton to bury this plan? It is really interesting.
Well, but I think part of it may be, and this is the part I can't figure out about the healthcare debate, it may be that it's not clear where the insurance industry is. If you're the insurance industry, there are things about Obamacare you don't like, there are things about Obamacare you do like. Yeah. You don't like the prohibition about throwing sick people off coverage because of a pre-existing condition. You don't like that. You do like the mandate. You actually do like more people having to or deciding to buy your products. So it's never been clear to me who the Republicans, at least initially, think in the donor class that they are serving. Because this isn't necessarily great. A repeal is not necessarily great for the insurance industry. Now, maybe the theory is that once we dismantle Obamacare, we take away the prohibitions, we deregulate the insurance market even more, so that there's this, they call it insurance across state lines. And I think, that sounds really great, right? It's insurance across state lines. Why can't the insurer, I live in Colorado, why can't the insurer in Utah provide insurance to me in Colorado? Because the regulations exist, because what would end up happening is all the insurers would go to the most unregulated state possible, like a place like South Dakota or something like that, to provide the worst coverage. They would all centralize there. So maybe the Republican theory is sort of a two-step plan where we get rid of Obamacare, all the good things that people like in Obamacare, in order to get to a situation in which the insurance industry has even more unbridled control over the insurance market. But the interim step between there isn't necessarily great for the insurance industry or the American public.
Yeah. No, this is weird. Normally, the Republicans don't do anything without the blessing of their giant donors. And here you've got a very significant Republican split between Paul Ryan, who also is basically a water boy for the donors, and Tom Cotton. So maybe it's two different sets of donors.
Look, it could be that people like Tom Cotton are legitimately afraid politically of actually throwing millions of people off of insurance.
That's true. And he's not the only Republican senator.
These people do come up for election. I'm not saying they don't want to serve their donors, but they're caught between.
I have never seen them care about voters this far out from election in my life. You see what I'm saying? Because at the end of the election cycle, what do? They just inundate you with ads paid for by their donors, and they don't concentrate on any of this. They usually, they're ready to do those giant tax cuts, which are terrible to voters, for the rich, etc.
People know if they used to have insurance and now they don't. That's an easy transfer to. Oh yeah, remember when I had access to healthcare?
My question about the Democrats is, you've had Donald Trump, who has said in the past he supports a single-payer health care, much like Medicare, is that where are the Democrats saying, okay, you want to repeal Obamacare? You want to replace Obamacare?
Yes!
Here's the most popular program in American history. Why don't we just have a one-page bill, a one-line bill that reduces the Medicare eligibility age to 0?
Yeah.
Okay, so
and Bernie is pushing for that in town halls on MSNBC every week now.
So that's what I wanted to focus on at the end too. So it's a great point by David. So they have complete dissension within the Republican Party now. Trump is now attacking Paul Ryan. We'll explain that in a different story. Tom Cotton is attacking Ryan. They're all attacking each other. So and they don't have any good ideas, and they can't figure out how to make this thing work because some of the more centrist Republicans go, no, you're gonna throw all these people off of insurance and I'm gonna get killed in the next election, to your guys' point, right? And the conservative Republicans are going, no, I want even more for my donors. This is not draconian enough, right? So in the middle of this mess, Democratic Party, you might wanna listen to Bernie Sanders. What could be a stroke of genius is to go, hey, lucky for the American people, we do have a repeal of Obamacare. What? Because every once in a while, a news anchor that got their talking points from the RNC says, how come the Democrats don't have an alternative? Well, first of all, they do. It's called Obamacare. Okay, but second of all,
they even have alternatives to that.
They have an alternative to Obamacare. It's single payer or Medicare for all. It's such a simple idea. We already have Medicare. We just extend it to everybody, as David just said. Problem solved. And by the way, Medicare also has the extra advantage of being the second most popular program in America. Social Security is #1, Medicare is #2, with about a 3/4 popularity, 75%. Have you ever seen anything with a 75% popularity rating? Certainly not Trump or Clinton or any other politician. So Democrats, wakey, Medicare for all right now.
Except the failure of them to do that so far. And because you didn't mention one other point, which is that Medicare is a Democratic program, right? A big D Democratic Party program. So very popular, a Democratic Party legacy program, a solution basically that the rest of the industrialized world has adopted. So then the next question is, well, if you're not willing to do that, why are you not willing to offer that up?
We should look into find out
if
if Democrats have ever gotten any money, campaign donations from health insurance companies.
I wonder.
Look into it.
Or the drug companies. I wonder if they've ever gotten
money.
It's
possible.
It is possible.
Yeah.
And if you remember, this came up during the Obamacare debate. They were going to lower there was a proposal out there to lower the Medicare age, eligibility age to 55. And if you remember, the person who led the charge, this was when the Democrats had 60 votes, it was Joe Lieberman.
Led the charge
against that and ended up killing that.
And so finally, what the Republicans are having trouble with is, well, you can't get all these things at once. How can you lower premiums, cover everybody, and lower the deficit all at the same time? There's actually only one proposal that does that. Medicare for all. And it's amazing. It's amazing. By the way, you're thinking, no, if you're an independent or you never covered this issue before, never thought about it, or you're a Trump supporter or whatever, you're thinking, no, you guys are crazy. There's no magic bullet like that. How could it possibly do that? One of the ways that it does that is it takes out the middleman. The health insurance companies make billions upon billions, hundreds of billions, maybe trillions of dollars at being the middleman. So once you take that amount of money away and then you provide the health insurance directly, oh, voila, look at that.
It can't be done like every other country, industrialized country in the world does it. It can't be done even though every other country in the world does it.
Support independent media and get the whole Young Turks 2-hour show and other network shows all ad-free. TYTnetwork.com/join. Come join us today.